All right, diving right into this. I'm really excited because this is the last part of our 4-part series we've been going over on P.A.T.H. So P was for passion, A was for attitude, T was for teamwork, H is for honor. So we're going to be going over how to honor other people, especially if they don't seem like they deserve honor. So that's going to be something that we all come in contact with. Someone who just does not give you honor, and your immediate flesh response is you don't want to honor them back, but we're going to learn how to do that. And then the last one is the best way to show honor to others is actually to honor yourself. And we're actually going to be going over how you can honor yourself, and that's a pretty good stuff. So some review on our last one you can go over, basically of teamwork, is that we want to be like the cables of that bridge, especially the one in Japan, to where when it was met with an earthquake, it didn't break, it didn't bend. Really what it did was actually extended itself 4 feet in order to go through the tasks and the pressure that was put upon it. And we want to make sure that we're just like that. We're working together with all of the people around us as a team to meet the need at hand. So today we're going to be talking about honor. And the first one is about checking the price tags. In Romans chapter 12, verse 10 says, "Be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Honor one another above yourselves." When Melody and I were dating, I remember walking through, either it was Dillard's or JCPenney, I don't remember which one, just walking through one day, and I remember walking through the ladies section because I wanted to maybe buy something for her, as a good boyfriend would want to do. There was this mannequin, and the mannequin was dressed very nice, and I looked at the outfit, and I was like, I think Melody will really like that. And I walked over there, and I felt really awkward because I'm kind of looking for the price tag on the sweater that was there, because I was like, I think she'll really look good in that. And then when I saw the price tag of $125, I was kind of taken aback because the whole outfit itself, it looked great, but the sweater alone was $125. You add the purse, that's $75 more. Add the shoes, that's $200 more. All of a sudden, the way I viewed those clothes shifted from clothes to something royalty would wear. And so we're talking about honor, and your first blank here is that honor in Greek, I don't know if I'm saying this right, it's tumi. So it's spelled T-U-M-I-E. T-U-M-I-E. And it actually carries the idea of a price tag. So in the first section that we're going over, we're going to go what it means to look at others with a higher price tag, to value them and to honor them, and to extend that tumi to them. Even to those people who may have wronged us, spoken harshly to us, or even behind our backs, which happen a lot, we can honor them by viewing the price tag of their souls. So another phrase that you guys might have heard a whole lot is that we're trying to look at people the way Jesus looks at them, through Jesus' eyes. Every person you'll meet today and tomorrow displays that kind of price tag. The question is, can you see it, and do you have the heart for honoring that? So that's your next blank, is do you have the heart for honoring it? It's a good question to ask ourselves, because sometimes we don't have the heart for honoring others. Sometimes our hearts can get in the way of honoring others. After all, when you really think about it, honoring is first and foremost a decision. It's a choice. That's your next blank. It's a choice of the heart, and sometimes our heart can block it. So going with this whole heart theme, we're going to go over 7 cardiac crises that can be devastating to the ministry and relationships. Okay? So thinking heart, cardiac arrest, stuff like that, not good if your heart stops. So number 1 is the enlarged heart. The enlarged heart. It's like having a big head, kind of full of pride. Jesus said in Matthew 20, "You know that in this world kings are tyrants and officials lord it over the people beneath them. But among you it should be quite different. Whoever wants to be first must become your slave." So your next blank is that in order to be first in God's kingdom, you guys know this, we need to be last. That's right. That's what we kind of call having a second place heart. Second place heart. It's putting others before us. Number 2 is having a high pressured heart. A high pressured heart is kind of like a volcano that's ready to explode. It's ready to pop a valve or a blood vessel pretty much because of long-term stress. You'll know if you've arrived at this point because it's that part of stress in your life that's outpaced your judgment, and you begin regularly dishonoring other people with unkind words or nonverbal responses. Sometimes, I'm not throwing Melody under the bus, but recently she said this and she's admitted to it, and me too, but when you're just driving and all of a sudden someone cuts you off or they hit their brake or something on the highway, like completely not paying attention to you, and they put not only their lives at risk but even your life at risk
and
sometimes, and our baby. You know, Melody's been turning into mama bear lately too, so her response is calling the person stupid, like, you stupid. That's the extent of the words, which is good, but still, or jerk, but still, it's that one to where it's that high pressured heart. Now, this one actually, this is your next blink. It actually takes years to get to this point in life, and healing for a high pressured heart can actually take a long time and be a steep road to climb. We need to cultivate hearts of peace rather than vent upon those waiting for us with hopeful expectancy in their hearts. So in other words, you don't want to come home from work and vent to your family. You know, they're expecting you to come home and they're excited to see you, but yet you come home venting to them and exploding to them. Kind of not a good combination. Number 3 is the shoved back heart. The shoved back, like someone's pushing you. God bless you. The shoved back heart. So this one's kind of similar to a high-pressured heart, only this disease, instead of happening over time, this happens all at once, and you feel like you're actually being shoved. I have a little short story in here that I'll read to you so that you can kind of understand what that means. But an example of this is of a train conductor who was out of control one day, and he was dishonoring people on the train like crazy. And he came to a man in the back who had the wrong ticket, and he just cut loose on him. But the man apologized to the conductor and treated him with honor, even though the train conductor just verbally brutalized him in front of everybody else. When the conductor moved on to the next car, a man sitting across from the guy who apologized said, "Wow, I can't believe you responded like that. You gave him so much respect when he treated you so rotten." And the man responded and said, "Hey, that man has to live with himself all year. I think I can put up with him for 5 minutes." That's got to kind of be our response to people. You never know what kind of day they've had. You don't know what kind of attack of the enemy is on them. I mean, anything like that. And so we just have to be kind of willing to put up with people, but that also goes to an extent as well. So your next blink is this. You guys have heard this time and time again from Pastor Terry. Hurt people have the tendency to hurt people. Like I said, you don't know what that person's going through. That's the way we just have to look at it. We have to figure out where they're coming from, kind of look at it from their shoes, their perspective, so that even if we feel as if they've shoved back our heart, we can see them from God's eyes and love them anyway, regardless of how we might feel. That's your next blink, regardless of how we might feel. Number 4 is the drained heart. The drained heart. So imagine your heart being drained of blood. That's not good, because you'll be dead. And then imagine your heart being drained of God's Spirit. That's really not good, because you're spiritually dead. When we don't take time to pray and worship God, read and study His Word on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, or anything else that keeps us from growing in our relationship with Christ, our hearts are draining. That's your next blink. Our hearts are literally being drained of God's presence. Matthew 12, verses 34 through 35 says, "How can you who are evil say anything good? For out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. The good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him, and the evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in him." There is a story that the author of this pretty much writes about when Berlin was divided. He says that the East Berliners couldn't travel into the free side. So one anger-filled night, some of the people from East Berlin, they got all the trash they could muster and put it in a dump truck, snuck over to West Berlin, and one night just dumped the trash all into the streets. Just as much as they could, scattered it and left it just disgusting. They left the truck and then ran back to their place. And they were waiting to see what their response would be the next morning, and so West Berlin got up that morning, cleaned everything, and to the East Berliners' surprise, they actually cleaned up the garbage truck inside and out, and they loaded it down with food and clothes and blankets. And that night, also, they snuck in back over to the other side, dropped off the dump truck with a sign that said, "Each gives out of what each has to give." Each gives out of what each has to give. It's pretty powerful. So the question that we can ask ourselves in that is that, are we consistent in our devotional times with God? Because out of the heart, the mouth will speak. Out of the heart, those actions will come. And so, like I said, again, using that example with Melody and I, we're driving on the highway and someone's being a jerk or acting stupid. Maybe instead of, yelling out what they're acting as, we could just say, "You're God's child," and just start speaking out that life.
I've been telling him how I don't want to do that
Instead,
I want my daughter to grow up with me yelling in the car.
It's true.
So I'm really trying to work on it.
It's true. Your next blank is this: we really speak from what's inside of us. If you guys remember one of our last ones, I think it was our attitude section, is that if someone bumps us, what's going to spill out of us? So that water bottle, if I bump it, water will spill out. Pepsi will spill out of it. But if someone bumps you, what's going to spill out of you? Is it good or is it bad? We have to make sure our hearts aren't spiritually drained because each of us gives out what we have available into the storehouse. And the question is our storehouse clean? Is our storehouse clean? Number 5 out of 7, moving right along, is the murmuring heart. People murmur all the time. But some folks, in reality, they really do have a heart murmur surgically installed. I didn't know that until I read this. So I was like, oh, okay. They have this installed into their bodies, and they live with it all through their lives. But other people have actually a murmuring heart, and they live with that day in and day out. It ends up bringing misery not only to them, but everyone around them. So if people have a murmuring heart, it's not only uncomfortable for them, but everybody else.
Yeah, that kind of goes along with the sarcasm that you talked about before.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of guilty of being sarcastic, especially in an argument with Melody. She hates it, but knowing that she hates it irks it on for me sometimes. And I'm a horrible person at being sarcastic. Like, I am horrible at it. But it's so fun to see her react to it.
I think it's easy for moms to be sarcastic. I'm just saying. I think moms like homeschool moms, we share like the fact that we struggle with sarcasm because we're just like sarcasm is like comic relief or something.
Yeah, sarcasm can be comic relief.
Say one more freaking diaper today. I'm just,
It's true. Some people carry it too far to where it's degrading, and it's. I actually had a boss like that one time in my life, and it was so degrading. It's like no matter what you did, even though they were trying to make it comical, it just degraded you and everyone else around them, and it just wasn't pleasant. So. Got to be careful with that sarcasm.
Yeah, I'm not saying excuse that it's okay.
Sure,
it's really wrong.
Sure, and in front of everybody, and even on the recording, babe, I'm sorry for being sarcastic.
Thank you.
Future, I'm sorry for being sarcastic.
Fix it.
All right, just stop it. Your next blink is this: that we infect others with our consistent complaining. We infect others. An example is that I do all the work around here, so therefore I will just keep doing it, but I'm going to keep doing it with a bad attitude. Or another example is that she never gives me any praise for all my hard work, so therefore I won't praise her for anything she does. We can't hold anyone in unforgiveness. Instead, we've got to follow Matthew 18, which says, "Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, 'Lord, how do I have to forgive someone who wrongs me? 7 times?' Jesus answered and said, 'Nope, not just 7 times, but 70 times 7. And I will always remember the grapes of wrath from VeggieTales, where she goes, 'That's 490 times.'" Always going to remember that. But I believe it goes even beyond 490 times. Jesus wasn't trying to give us a mathematical equation because he knows people like me suck at math. So I had to have VeggieTales add that up for me. But it goes over and beyond, and that's, I think, the point that he was trying to get across. Your next blank is that we need to remember that holding a grudge is a way to really hurt yourself. Holding a grudge is really a way to hurt yourself. And gosh, do I have so many stories I could share about that with people, especially like someone like leadership or someone if they wrong you and you just hold on to that and that bitterness, that unforgiveness. It causes acne, it causes stress, you can't sleep at night, you don't eat well, your relationships with your family seems to be wrong. I mean, it really does harm to yourself. So be careful with that one. A famous quote that you guys might have heard, I'm not sure if you have or not, but it goes like this: "You will know that forgiveness has begun when you recall those who hurt you and you feel the power to wish them well." And you have that power to wish them well. Number 6, The slow beating heart. The slow beating heart. And no, one of these is not from a country song like My Achy Breaky Heart. So we're good. This is the slow beating heart. This is the I'll get around to it when I get a chance kind of heart. As humans, this is pretty cool. Here's some statistics for you. As humans, we're quick to give 90% criticism to those who need correction. It's pretty crazy, huh? Especially, I think, as you get older and wiser, you're quick to give that criticism. But we seem to never hardly reach the 10% of affirmation. So maybe it's time you reverse your 90% and your 10%. Maybe it's time to put your 90% on hold for a while, because that'll be okay if you do. We just need to give more of that 10%, because that honor given to one another will increase the ministry momentum across the board for everybody. Always got to give that 10% and even up that 10%.
More of what? Did you say honor?
More of that 10%.
Oh, 10%.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
Which is basically honoring others, affirming them, letting them know they're doing a good job. And even if they're not doing a good job, trying to find the positive in that somewhere to pull that out of them. I've been doing that really recently with somebody, and just really letting them know, hey, I believe in you. I think you got potential. I think you got a lot to bring to the table, but this is what I need from you. So continuing trying to get that going is, I guess if they're not used to having that affirmation, it's kind of strange to them at first. They don't know how to accept it. I'm just thinking of this one individual right now, but I think over time, the Holy Spirit will work in their heart to soften that and to help them know, oh, I'm being affirmed. Hey, I'm being encouraged. Hey, I need to step into a higher calling that they're calling me into. So that's my prayer anyway for this individual. Number 7, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but it's called the atrophied heart or atrophied heart. How do you say that?
Atrophied.
Yeah. ATROPHIED.
I missed that one. We just need to get
10% was the one right before that one, yeah.
10
more of 10.
So it was atrophied, is that what you guys said? Y'all should teach this class. ATROPHIED. It's the heart that's too small. It only reaches out to the familiar, the comfortable, the liked, the non-threatening, the attractive, and helpful. Really quick, I'm going to read you, because this was too long to type up. So I'm going to read you really quick. It's from, you guys like Max Lucado? Love Max Lucado. So this is from his book called And the Angels Were Silent. And I love the story. I've heard it so many times, but just reading it always helps me out on this. Before I read it, your next blink in this is that the price tag is everything when it comes to honor, and you determine the price tag you want to see. You determine the price tag you want to see. Keep that in mind as I read the story to you really fast. It's from his book called And the Angels Were Silent, and he tells a story about a young man from Florida, John Blackard, who had gone to the library to read a book. Instead, he became more interested in the notes penciled in the margins by the book's original owner, a woman named Miss Hollis. He was intrigued by the thoughtful reflections in the jottings and decided he would try to locate her, even though on the very next day he would be shipped overseas for service in World War II. He discovered that Hollis lived in New York City, so he wrote a letter of introduction and started a correspondence with her that lasted for more than a year while he was in Europe. A romance actually began to develop, and John requested a photograph, but Hollis refused, saying that if he really cared for her, it wouldn't matter what she looked like. When the day finally came for him to return from Europe, they scheduled their first meeting at 7:00 p.m. at Grand Central Station in New York City. She said, "You'll recognize me by the red rose I'll be wearing on my lapel." So, at 7:00, John was in the station looking for a girl whose heart he loved, but whose face he had never, ever seen. This would make an incredible romance movie, I'm just telling you. Here's how Max Lucado tells the rest of the story from John's perspective. A young woman was coming toward me, her figure long and slim. Her blonde hair laid back in curls from her delicate ears. Her eyes were blue as flowers. Her lips and chin had a gentle firmness, and in her pale green suit, she was like springtime come alive. I started toward her, entirely forgetting to notice that she was not wearing a rose. As I moved, a small, proactive, smile curved her lips. "Going my way, sailor?" she murmured. Almost uncontrollably, I made one step closer to her, and then I saw Hollis. She was standing almost directly behind this lady, a woman well past 40. She had graying hair tucked under a worn hat. She was more plump, her thick-ankled feet thrust into low-heeled shoes. The girl in the green suit was walking away quickly. I felt as though I was split in two. So keen was my desire to follow her, yet so deep was my longing for the woman whose spirit had truly companioned me and upheld my own. And there she stood. Her pale, plump face was gentle and sensible. Her gray eyes had a warm and kindly twinkle. I did not hesitate. My fingers gripped the small, worn blue leather copy of the book that was to identify me to her. This would not be love, but it would be something more precious, something perhaps even better than love, a friendship for which I had been and must never, a friendship for which I had been and must ever be grateful. I squared my shoulders and saluted and held out the book to the woman, even though while I spoke I felt choked by the bitterness of my disappointment. I'm Lieutenant John Blackard, and you must be Miss Maynell. I'm so glad you could meet me. May I take you to dinner? The woman's face broadened into a tolerant smile. She said, I don't know what this is all about, son, but the young lady in the green suit who just went by, she begged me to wear this rose on my coat. And she said, if you were to ask me out to dinner, I should go and tell you that she is waiting for you in the big restaurant across the street. She said it was some kind of a test. Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. So that blank that you guys had, you determine the price tag you want to see, really speaks volumes on that. You determine the price tag you want to see. So we've got to value people no matter what they look like, no matter their shape, no matter their size. We've got to value people and look at them the way God does. It's legally rooted in how we view and relate with our earthly mother and father, which then determines our own self-esteem as well. People collect different things. We kind of know this. I don't know if you guys collect anything. Some collect buttons. Some collect coins and stamps, baseball cards, whatever. But ironically, a lot of these things that people collect, such as baseball cards, those cards can be well worth over their original price. So I don't know if you guys collect anything like that you've held on for a long time. But you can find their value from certain books which specialize in card collections or stamp collections or anything like that. In the same way, just as people can find the value of certain things through books, we find the value of us and in others. Our worth is decided by God's word. And that's your next blank. Our worth is decided by God's word. Our value is based on God and his word alone, not by our performance or attributes, which I'm so thankful for. The next blank is that we need to see others as God sees them. It's kind of the whole theme of this first section here. We've got to look at people the way God looks at them. I'm going to jump down to your next blank here, is that if we perceive something as valuable, we'll actually do anything to find it. If we have anything that's of value, we'll do anything to find it. A great example is Luke chapter 15, verses 3 through 7. It's the parable of the lost sheep. Not to mention also Jesus coming down on the cross for all of mankind, because God saw us so valuable that he went to the extreme and sent his own son to die for us. Here's a quick short story for you as well, even when it hurts. It's a true story. Decades ago, King George spoke at the opening session of the London Arms Conference, but Americans almost missed it when a control room operator for CBS tripped over the wire and broke it seconds before the announcement. This guy named Harold, he was the chief control operator, grabbed both ends of the wire, one in his left and the other in his right, and he allowed himself to be grounded for 250 volts to pass through him and allow the message to reach. He was unarmed because of the closed circuit, but needless to say, it wasn't the most comfortable thing to endure. But the question is, maybe ask yourself, would I be willing to take that kind of risk? And to build on that is the question is, are we going to allow God's message to flow through us even when it hurts? Even when it hurts. That's what it's all about. It's about valuing others and your neighbor as yourself. And to go off of this, people will do anything if they find value in something. Personally, I'm a geek at heart. I love Power Rangers, Spider-Man, superheroes. My mom also used to read. This has nothing to do with geek, really, I guess. Nerdy, maybe. But my mom used to read Hank the Cowdog books to me as a kid. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Hank the Cowdog. John R. Erickson, amazing. And so I grew up loving her read those to me. I loved reading them. I loved listening to the audiobooks of them, especially how the author, which, Matt, I think you would enjoy them because just the creativity of it, but the author actually recorded them himself. He wrote original songs to go in the books and in there, but he did different voices for each character. And there's over 60-something books written now for kids of Hank the Cowdog. And so all that to say is that I would get super excited, and I would be willing to spend $80-something at half-price bookstore trying to buy and collect all of these books. Well, I got convicted of that. It's like, I should really be putting my money to other use. So I had to return $80-something worth of Hank the Cowdog books to half-price bookstore. But the fact of the matter is that I would almost do anything to get something that I thought was valuable. But I'm just so thankful that God saw us as valuable and did everything in His power to save us from not going down a good path. So, all right.
One time we spent $200 on another book series and ended up selling that for $200 because he was like,
I have buyer's remorse, guys. I seriously do. I grew up also, another geeky thing, Nickelodeon aired this TV show called Animorphs when I was really, really young. And there was this huge book series of it, and it was a sci-fi thriller for kids. And so, very recently, last year, I wanted the series. And so I bought the entire series minus 4 or 5 books out of this collection for $200-something. And I started reading through them and stuff, and I probably got to book 15, and I was like, this is really repetitive. This is really stupid. Would I really want my kids reading this? I can't believe I bought this. And so luckily I was able to sell it on Amazon, and I got a $3 profit. So, yeah, anyway. All right, let's jump on to this second section. We got one more section after this, so 2 more left, and it is 4 o'clock, so we're doing good. We're going to be talking about sailing the seas of conflict, okay? So we talked about honoring others by looking at them how God looks at them, even if they treat you like dirt. But we're going to also talk about, so how do we maneuver through conflicts? Because conflicts happen. They happen with your spouse. They happen with your siblings, your parents, your coworkers, your friends, your cousins. It happens. So we all know that sailors and soldiers at times, they got to face the enemy and they got to fight. But they're not the only ones. Again, we've got to do that too. So here's the first one. All of us have conflicts in our lives. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. It's going to happen, period. An old saying says that it's not the sugar that makes a tea sweet, it's the stirring. It's not the sugar that makes a tea sweet, it's the stirring. In other words, conflict can result in something good if you handle it right. If we've moved through it with patience and wisdom. Patience and wisdom. So when we first started this, we talked about basically airplanes and the instruments in the airplane and the cockpit, and you guys basically got pilot license 101 through this. Well, now we're going to be talking about different types of ships, from Navy to Army to all these other type of ships, and how they maneuver through the water and how that kind of goes with us when we're in conflict. So your first ship that you're going to go over is the battleship response. You guys know big old battleships, right? Anybody play that game, Battleship? B-14. So this is the battleship response. It's built to fight and to conquer, to win. Some of you guys probably have had arguments with battleship personalities before. It's a personality that will not settle for a loss. They're ready to sink anyone into the depths. Some actually create conflict because they're just built to fight. They like to argue and savor verbal victory. If they ever feel backed into a tight corner, they'll bring out even bigger guns and louder artillery. Maybe they'll bring things up to use against you. Anything goes to win this war for a battleship personality. An example is this. We're going to be, you guys are going to get very familiar with Bob and Betty. We're going to be talking about them in every ship situation here. Same situation, same scenario, but different responses. So in a classroom setting, we got one leader. His name is Bob. He wants to teach X, Y, and Z in a curriculum. So think about Adventure Zone, think about Orange Yellow, whatever you want to think about. He wants to teach it X, Y, Z. The other leader, Betty, thinks it's best that they actually need to teach ABC. But Bob then basically says, it's my way or the highway. So he's basically telling his assistant teacher to either help me or get out of the classroom. It's kind of a battleship response. A biblical example is found in Luke chapter 9, verse 54. It's James and John's response to Jesus when he noticed that all the people were not welcoming Jesus simply because he was heading to Jerusalem. And it says that when the disciples, James and John, saw this, they asked, Lord, do you want us to call down fire from heaven and destroy them? And the next verse, Jesus simply rebuked them. I mean, talk about a battleship personality. They just wanted to see everyone destroyed, die, whatever, just because they didn't welcome Jesus. Number 2 is a submarine response type of personality. A submarine response type of personality. And as we go through these, and I think there's a question in here later on, but think about what type of ship are you in your personality when it comes to conflict. So this is a submarine response. It's built to disappear, or also known as the deserter. This personality is one that as soon as the waters stir up and the fight begins, they dive, they disappear, they totally withdraw. And sometimes that's me. I will withdraw. I will back out. I don't like fighting. But don't mistake this as a sign that they don't want to win the conflict. Okay, that's your next blank. Don't mistake that as a sign just because they withdraw that they don't want to win, because their use with withdraw and silence is a weapon. Many times a submarine will withdraw, they'll relocate, they'll resurface, and fire before withdrawing even again. So they got passive-aggressive counterattacks. Even though withdrawing from a conflict and choosing your battles is a good thing, continuing to fight them from the murky depths usually escalates in the hostilities. So here's an example with Bob and Betty. Bob still wanting to teach X, Y, and Z, and who walked all over Betty with his battleship tactics in the last example. What do you think Betty's response could have been here? She may shut up and refuse to fight, and she'll back out. But then she thinks of a passive-aggressive counterattack. She could order a new curriculum anyway, and forget to order the teacher's manual, or even have the bill sent to Bob's door and in his name, So she withdraws, and she still tries to have that counterattack anyway. Hopefully none of us do this, but, it's something in here anyway. A biblical example is found in Jonah. When Jonah ran away from God, instead of confronting the Ninevites, he withdrew, and we all know what happened after that. He got swallowed by a giant whale or fish. I'm not really sure which one it was, but it was a big thing that lives in the ocean. Number 3 is the aircraft carrier response. The aircraft carrier response. This one's kind of funny for me. It's built to avoid the conflict directly, so they're the deployer. Similar to a submarine, the aircraft carrier responds, gets others to engage the enemy and report back. They rarely engage in conflict directly. However, they are not defenseless. They're equipped with small guns used to attack if ever approached. This is a very popular approach in ministry conflicts. If you guys have not realized that in your time at a church or anything like that, in warped methods, someone will send others out on their behalf but refuse to back them up or acknowledge what they were the original sender of the message. It happens all the time. They'll keep whispering to third parties until the criticism rises to the right people. It might not be just in churches, but it happens everywhere. You finally approach somebody and be like, hey, so-and-so said that you said this. I don't know what you're talking about. No. They've completely refused. It's really funny. But an example with Bob and Betty is this. They're on deck, and Bob still wants to teach X, Y, and Z. He's going to be stuck on this for a while. He really wants to teach X, Y, and Z. But Betty takes the aircraft carrier response, and get this, she gathers up several other leaders nearby. She can do this with him knowing or without him knowing, but she'll get the others to join in on her side, and pretty soon Bob doesn't even know who he's quarreling with anymore. So maybe you guys have had this happen in your life when you were a kid, at school, whatever. Maybe this is coming to mind a little bit, to where you all of a sudden feel outnumbered because someone went and got someone else on their team to come against you. And it's like, hold on, wasn't this just between you and me? Why are these guys here? A biblical example is in Matthew 27. Remember when Jesus and Barabbas were before Pilate? He wanted to free Jesus, but he didn't want the buck to stop at him. So he reached out and asked the crowd whom to release, therefore choosing not to engage in Jesus directly. So he wanted to go with the aircraft carrier response. Number 4, the canoe response. The little canoe. We're talking about big old battleships and stuff. Now we're on a canoe. Has no guns whatsoever. It's built to compromise and balance. It's the negotiator. It's kind of a personality that says, you paddle hard left, I'm going to paddle hard right. So you lean left and I'll lean right. But if you don't lean left, I'm going to tip this thing over right now. So in other words, it's the I'll only give something if I get something in return personality. It's attempting to do battle with a canoe is very tricky and very delicate. Everyone involved can end up wet or drowned because it becomes a give and take relationship. We want to make sure we don't give and take. So again, here we are with Bob and Betty. Okay, they're our mascots for today. Bob is always still persistent with this X, Y, and Z teaching idea, but Betty suggests that they stick with what their leadership has planned out for them anyway. Bob's canoe response could go like this. Well, all right, I'll teach it this way, but you got to promise me that the next time we'll teach it my way. The rest of the conversation is a rocky one where Bob is only satisfied as everything comes out even or fair. A biblical example is in Judges chapter 6. Gideon said to God, I'll place the wool fleece out on the threshing floor. If there's dew on the fleece, but the ground remains dry, then I'll know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you said. So Gideon's negotiating style simply says, God, I'll do it your way as long as you can prove to me that everything's going to be okay. And obviously the Bible does say, and God is saying, test me, know that I'm God. But there's a time where you just got to believe, and you just got to trust, and you got to walk out in that faith. Number 5, a lifeboat response. Am I going too fast? Is this okay? Okay. The lifeboat response. It's built to yield, also known as the drifter. Lifeboat personalities yield to whatever conflict is raging. They hate confrontation and do whatever they can to skip out. That's me. They are powerless to set their own course because they have no engine to drive them. They are powerless. They just go with the flow. That's your next blank. They just go with the flow of things and they hope that the storm will soon pass. Yielding conflicts is very admirable. Even Jesus did this. But remember, lifeboats are simply air-inflated rubber. You can't bury emotion and anger, but you can bury it alive. It will rise up again unless it's put to death first. So, yeah, you can't. You can't bury it alive. Because if you try to push anything, I did this with swimming toys all my life because they float and everything. You try to push it down, you just let go, that beach ball is going to come right back up out of the water. So you cannot bury anything alive like that. So example with Bob and Betty is that it actually turns out that Betty's the CE committee chairwoman of the church. Her lifeboat response to Bob's insistency of doing the curriculum his way could be this. Well, I'd really hope that you could use the curriculum we have chosen for you and do it how we've laid it out for you. But if you really want to use your book, well, that's okay. As Betty continues to push her feelings down, over time, she risks the unexpected explosion when her anger rises up. It happens. I've seen it happen with coworkers before, in and outside of the ministry. It just happens. A biblical example is Luke chapter 22, when Peter was sitting in the firelight of the campfire, and looking at him closely was a servant girl. And after carefully studying his face, she announced that Peter was one of Jesus' disciples. And this is on the night where he's getting accused, and we all know his response, "Woman, I don't even know him." So he was pushing down this whole time, and it just came right up out of the water. The Bible even says there's a few, I don't know if it's true or not, maybe it was, because he was under a lot of pressure and a lot of stress that night, but some of the different versions of the Bible says that he even cursed in one of those instances, because he denied Jesus 3 times, and in one of those he just cursed, being all like, "I told you." So, I don't know. It just happens. So you risk that anger just coming out of nowhere. Number 6 is the fireboat response. A fireboat response. It's built to put out the fires. It's the extinguisher. Like all other personalities, this one's not bad, but it's not good either. The fireboat tries to fix everything with quick solutions. Anybody like that in here? Yeah, Mandy? She's like, that's me. Just try to find that solution. You don't even want to hear the issue, really. You just be like, okay, let's get to the point. What's the problem? This is what you need to do. Done. The end. Don't want to talk about it anymore. They try to find that quick solutions by turning on those water cannons at the first sign of smoke. Not necessarily fire, but just smoke. So sometimes conflict needs to be expressed and then resolved. As in a major surgery, this is pretty good, sometimes things need to get worse before they can get better. In many cases, it's better to move through the conflict rather than trying to avoid it altogether. So here we are back again with Bob and Betty. Good old Bob and Betty. I think we got, after this one, we got one more example with them. I'm sure y'all are tired of Bob and Betty right now. Betty could approach Bob with a fireboat personality, which tries to stop conflict before it happens. Now, Bob, I sure do hope you're not thinking about using another curriculum. We tried that once with others and it didn't work out. Anyway, I know you're just going to love what we developed once you try it. The kids simply love it. A biblical example is found in Acts chapter 15, where Paul and Barnabas had such a serious argument together that they decided to go different ways in the hope of avoiding any other conflicts down the road. So they were like really good pals ministering together, but then they had a conflict, if you read the scriptures, and they decided to part ways and still continue in the ministry. So maybe that was the first church split. I don't know.
Let's not fight it out. Let's
Yeah,
just be down.
yeah. Let's just agree to disagree and go our separate ways. Number 7 is the tugboat response. I like this one right here. It's built to solve the problems. They become the rescuer. They constantly seek resolution. Their life motto is this: we can overcome anything if we just work together. It's kind of timely, going right after our teamwork session. All right, Bob and Betty, this is it. We're going to say goodbye after this. Bob and Betty are chugging along, discussing the new curriculum conflict, and she says, well, why don't you do this? Suppose you come to our next meeting and do a presentation on the curriculum you'd like to use for the 6th grade boys. Tell us about it, show us why you'd like it and like to use it and why you're so enthused about it. Who knows? Maybe we'll find a creative solution to use your curriculum and the one we currently use. This is the ideal response for all of us. But are all the other responses bad compared to the tugboat? You guys answer that one, yes or no? No, they're not. But there is a time and a place for everything. Jesus himself even portrayed these same responses through his life. This is really cool. You guys can read through this. I'll just mention the first few. But battleship response, Jesus cleansed the temple. I mean, he went in there with guns blazing. Aircraft carrier response is that Jesus sent out 12 men. He had his own disciples, and there's even another scripture where he sent them out 2 by 2 as well, right before his ascension. Lifeboat response is that Jesus didn't answer back to anybody. He just pushed down. He waited. And then a tugboat response is that Jesus has open arms for all of us. He's ready to respond. He's ready to rescue. Your next blank is this: we must determine which boat will take us to peaceful shores in the most God-honoring way with those we have conflicts with. The most God-honoring way. So out of those, maybe just write it down in your notes section somewhere, but which boat more describes you and where you're at right now? Even if it's just with one person or one conflict right now that you're thinking about, which one best describes you? And then ask yourself, how can I change this to guide me to peaceful waters with those around me? Here's your next blank as you think about that. We do have responsibilities to others in our ministry teams, like the children's ministry. It's keeping each other accountable. We keep each other accountable. So every time we go through a training, every time we talk about an update or something that the leadership would like us to do, we keep each other accountable on what that looks like. Rather, that's a new way to clean the tables or new snacks we're going to be serving. We keep each other accountable on that. Not just by the way we view and treat others, but also ourselves and in our spiritual walk with the Lord. I don't know if you guys ever encourage each other and ask each other before devotional times or break times, hey, how's your quiet time going, Matt? You seem a little stressed today. How's everything going? Can I pray with you about anything? It's having that relationship with people and keeping each other accountable. It's coming up next to them and you're grabbing them by the shoulder and say, hey, I'm going to walk this with you. I'm going to walk you through this. Your next blank is this: the principle of accountability is taking personal responsibility for the successful functioning of the team. For the successful functioning of the team. Yet we can be hindered from this by some distraction or hindrance. That could be arrogance. A distraction or hindrance could be, your next blank is arrogance. And arrogance is having a personal agenda without paying attention to anyone else's agenda. Or, as we're talking about the being hindered with distractions or hindrances, is individualism. That's your next blank. Individualism. Rugged. When you're a part of a team, you have to make personal sacrifices on many levels. But not showing up to things is a way that says, I'm not getting anything here, and I'd rather not show up. It's all about meeting my needs instead of the needs of the team. Your next blank right here is lack of loyalty. Can also be a distraction, can also be a hindrance. Lack of loyalty and lack of support. Those are your next two blanks, loyalty and support. Saying things like, I'm not going to be loyal to that, or talking bad about the team members behind their backs, or agreeing to something at a team meeting but bad-mouthing it later. You get the idea. This one, kind of weird for me, but your next blank is end runs. R-U-N-S, runs. This is what you do when your boss does something you don't like, and so instead of going to him, you go to his boss or her boss. End runs are probably the single greatest cause of breaking trust in teams. I wonder why. We need to go directly to the source and talk things out together. Just like Matthew 18 says that if you have a conflict against your brother, what do? You go directly to your brother. All right. Well, that sums that up. We blew through that one fast. I told you, I really want to get you guys out of here on time. Am I going too fast? I know I asked that already, but are y'all okay with this? Do y'all have any questions? I want to hear from you guys really quick before we jump into the very last section, because once we're done with this, we are done with this, people. I'm excited about that in a good way. But what type of boat best describes you and why? Mandy, let's start with you.
Oh, I gotta go back to them.
Okay. Well, while she's looking, if you guys know what boat best describes you, go ahead and speak out.
Canoe.
The canoe? So you feel like sometimes, Melody, you're more of a give and take?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, let's make a compromise, because, like, for instance, if he wants to, like, reorganize the house, like, move furniture, I'm like, but I like it where it is, I try to find a compromise. Like, okay, well, if we keep that one there, then this needs to stay here. Like, I tend to do that.
That's true. Okay.
Good.
Anybody else?
Well, there's a couple of these. I was thinking submarine, because I'm a phlegmatic personality. I want peace at any price. So
Okay.
if there's a fight, I'm out.
Okay. At first, I thought I was a submarine too, and then I went deeper into it. I think I am more of the the lifeboat? I think is what it was. I'd rather just skip out altogether instead of emerging and then showing up later with a counterattack. So I don't know. Maybe we're on the same page or whatnot, but I think that's my personality, is more of a lifeboat.
But maybe mine is more lifeboat too, just because I bury it, and then
You bury
I'm
it?
just carrying it around.
And then one day it just just pops right back out of the water, and people are like, "Where did that come from?" Well, let me tell you, when I was 10 years old, yeah, it happens. Yep. I actually, to be honest, I actually had one of those breakdowns like a week ago in front of Pastor Chris. He's like, "Hey man, tell me what's going on." "Well, I'll tell you." And just start telling him all this stuff, and he's like, "Bruh, are you okay?" Like, we're in a restaurant and everything. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't that dramatic, but it was. It was like one thing led to the next thing and led to the next thing and led to the next thing, and all I needed was just to let it out. You know, I needed someone to talk to other than just Melody, and I needed to hear someone pour life into me and help find a solution for something, because I could only see it through my view. So it happens. It definitely just came rocketing out of the water, and it definitely took Pastor Chris by surprise.
He's a responder.
Yeah, he is. He's a responder, and he was there. He was my tugboat. Sounds kind of gay, but anyway. All right, so canoe, lifeboat. Mandy, did you figure yours out?
I think, I don't know exact. I guess it'd be the fireboat. I just want to, I just need to talk it out right away. We need to come to an agreement and end it and be done.
Melody used to be like that. We need to find the solution right now. We are not done talking. We're not going to bed or anything until we're done.
But I'm not always conscientious of feelings either. I'm like, don't care about your feelings. What happened and how can I fix it? And so we always finish. It's always a good resolution. But but like that, we don't go to bed. We're gonna talk about this. We're not gonna have conflicts.
I was so mad at Melody one day. We first got married or something like that, and it was one of those nights where I don't even remember what it was. It always doesn't matter to anything the next day. But we were up till 2 a.m. on a work day. And I was even more mad at her because she wouldn't let it drop and let's just sleep on this and all this other stuff. But she's like, "No, the Bible says we're not going to go to bed on our anger." And I'm all like, "Stop pulling that card because I'm not angry."
I've learned better to go back now.
Sometimes you just got to sleep it out. That's for sure. But yeah.
As long as we probably talk about it then it's
All right, fireboat for Mandy. Miss Rita?
Yeah, I don't know. Think about it.
All right, think about it. Matt?
Maybe. I don't know. I think about it. 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 May
Unless you got it.
Probably the lifeboat. I mean, I want
A lifeboat?
I want to take care of things right away. Or I may say, okay, well, example, there was a real hard situation that came in, somebody that is just, I don't know, it's too much to go into. But, you know, we'd been friends for a long, long time, and I cared for her kids and everything, and she staying in our house that particular night, and she was a single mom by this time, but apparently had some problems I didn't even realize, you know, as far as money and stuff, and so she needed to borrow some, and I said, she knew we'd, you know, gotten a little check or something, and so I said, sure. And of course, the attitude behind that was, well, if Frank's brother can find out we have money, he can give him money, well, I can just leave this to her and not bother with it. But I didn't know her serious problem. And she was gone the next morning, off the couch and gone. And I went through anger, hurt, the whole bit, because it was really, you know, I thought we were friends. And I didn't know how to handle this, but I got past all that and said, okay, Lord, I'm ready. Called her and I said, okay, you know me well enough to know I've thought about this, I've been angry, and now I'm ready for us to talk about it. I'm not ready. Years she would get to the point, Lord, through that whole process, for the whole time, breaking me down in the sense of, and then say, forgive her her debt. And I thought, Father, I can do that with you doing it through me, but how do we get back to a friendship, or do we? And this past year, it's been years, but I had been so hurt and didn't realize the friends did that kind of thing, but she had much more serious problems than I thought. And it was horrendous. I was not as very sensitive or understanding. She wasn't telling me her full thing. So I'd have to say, like, I want to get it done. I don't want to let it go. And then again, I'm also on the other side. It's just not doing this. It'll go away by itself. Other things.
Yeah.
Depends on the intensity of the situation.
Yeah, I was about to say there's something that just seems so big that even we sometimes are like, you know, let's just forget it. We'll just pretend that never happened in your life and just move on. That's good. Matt, what about you, man?
It kind of depends. I think if it's somebody else or somebody else's thing, I'm a canoe. In that, okay, well, we can work this out. If it's somebody else's thing that I'm helping them with, I think if it's something that I'm doing, or that I think I have kind of the submarine, the kind of passive aggressive. Okay, fine. You know, I'll just be very nice, and then kind of behind. Okay, we're gonna do something else. We won't tell them, but we're gonna do something. So you know, because I have kind of a laid back exterior, but inside it's like fire. So I think for me it kind of depends. It depends on what I can either be very compromising, or I can sort of submerge, and we'll just go this way.
We'll just go that way instead.
And they won't even see it.
They won't even see it. It's true.
We're gone.
Well, I'm at least pleased to hear that no one is a battleship, because if you come in with guns blazing, that puts, for at least my personality, is that my defenses go up, and I'm like, whoa, hey, and then it's like, then that just causes all that other kind of crazy stuff. So, yeah, going in with guns blazing might not always be the best solution to any conflict. Melody's all looking at me like, All right, so we talked about honoring other people by looking at them through God's eyes, even though sometimes they might not deserve it. Number 11, our second section we just got done going over, a quick review, is that basically we talked about different types of conflicts, how we can maneuver around them. Good old Bob and Betty going through the curriculum dispute of what should we do and how should we do it. This one, the final section of that H for honor, is actually honoring yourself. And it's the first step of actually honoring others. The reason why we're not starting this out in the first three sections of honor, even though it says it's the first step in honoring others, is because I think this one just carries more of an impact of a punch in information and inspiration. And so even by today, you'll hopefully go home and be like, gosh, maybe I need to start honoring myself so that I can then honor others, instead of trying to place these other pieces before you're taken care of also. Because honestly, as servants, and we're always serving other people, especially servants of God, we do tend to put the needs of others a lot before our own needs. But let's face it, if we run ourselves down rampant, we're no good to then help others. So this is a really good section, and the lady who was helping me go through this stuff and try to get some of this stuff proofread a little bit in the short time that was able to do, she said this one spoke out the loudest to her out of all of these. And like I said, out of all of these sections we've gone through, from the P, the A, the T, and now the H, you can literally take all of this stuff and apply it to every area of your life, not just children's ministry. Work, family, relationships, siblings, parenting. It's just really good stuff. Just know what it is, what it's talking about. Put yourself in that situation, and then go forward with it. So here we go with the last section right here of honoring. And honoring yourself is the first step to honoring others. Here's a question for you. Have you ever said to yourself, I seem to be racing around more than ever, but getting further and further behind? Anybody said something like that before, maybe?
Yes.
I really felt like that. I do feel like that now in my life, but I really felt like that in my college life, because I was full-time college, full-time work, full-time relationship with a girl that I loved and ultimately became my wife, and it was just full-time everything. Felt like there was no downtime, and now we're about to have a baby, so it's just going to pick up speed from here.
Calm down.
Yep. So our lives seem to be consistently picking up speed. Have you noticed that it's always hurry up or slow down? But what it really needs to be is just slow down. We're going to be talking about what it means to slow down today. Yeah, I thought of you a lot, actually, as I was going over this. So in this section, we're going to discover the art of honoring others more effectively by honoring ourselves, by refreshing ourselves in time management. We're going to be talking about priorities. We're going to talk about purpose, and we're going to talk about downtime. Everyone say amen.
Amen.
Especially, guys, on a Saturday afternoon. I always thank y'all on a Saturday morning, but really a Saturday afternoon, I swear, was not my original plan. So thank y'all for honoring me by coming here today, and just honoring yourself also for coming to this. I hope y'all get a lot out of this. So here we go.
You have an awesome attitude, okay?
Do what?
You have an awesome attitude.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Because I know
Stop it. Stop it. Just stop.
You had to choose. It was a choice, which is like the very first square we filled.
Right.
Making a choice.
Yeah.
So you're choosing to have the right attitude because you're feeling, initially you're just like, you gonna butt my meeting down?
It's true. So Melody, I've also been looking at Melody this whole time, and she just looks like she's about to pass out. Because we were at the Life Language Conference last night from 7 to 9, and we woke up and we were here from 9:30 till like 3, but they kind of went over till like 3:30. That's why we kind of started late, and now we're in this for another hour and a half to 2 hours. But hey, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. All right, so here we go. We're going to start out with a Bible verse on this because the Bible is awesome. Isaiah chapter 49 verse 4 says, I've worked hard all my life for nothing. I've used all my energies, but I've accomplished nothing useful. I don't want that to be my life motto. So when you rack your brain at the end of your day asking yourself if you did anything worth doing, it's those kind of feelings that could lead to burnout. Rita mentioned burnout earlier, and so I'm glad you mentioned this because this goes hand in hand with that. So it can lead to burnout. Burnout is less of a matter of being too busy than a matter of having nothing truly significant to be busy about. That's pretty profound. I'm going to say that again. Burnout is less a matter of being too busy than a matter of having nothing truly significant to be busy about. So a lot of times people get burned out, especially in churches, because they're doing, and they don't really have a passion to do what they're doing. Kids ministry comes to mind a lot here. A lot of churches will just stick a mirror under someone's nose, and if they're breathing, they shove them in the kids ministry because they need help. Well, because that person doesn't have a passion, and they want to honor their leadership or the relationship they have with that person to ask them to do it, and they're going to try it, but they feel locked into it, they don't know when they can get out, and all this other stuff, and finally it just leads to burnout to where they just don't volunteer again for a long time, and unfortunately it happens a lot. So burnout's not a good thing. Here are 5 ways to reverse the flow of burnout and start getting built up again. So if you've ever dealt with burnout in any area of your life, whether it's church, family, friends, finances, anything, here are some ways to do this. Initialize the fire break around your life. Fire break. I actually wanted to be a fireman before God led me into the ministry. I actually went to school for it for one day. Because literally one day I went to college at Midland College, and I was getting ready to do my basics and everything. One day, and I just was like, this is not for me. This is totally not for me. And then the Holy Spirit spoke through my mom that night at the dinner table saying that I needed to go to Christ for the Nations, and it just confirmed so much in me. And then one thing led to another. But my dad's a retired firefighter. My uncle's a retired firefighter. I remember great memories as a kid, getting to go to the fire station sometimes to visit my dad. He worked at many different types of stations, and the last station that he worked at was at the airport, because they have a fire station at the airport for obvious reasons. Planes crash, blah, blah, blah. And it was just great getting out there to talk to him, listen to the radio, listen to the tower, communicate to the planes. It was like a boy's dream come true kind of a thing. And then it was even more great. I mean, I got to see where the guys, slept. I got to see their gym where they worked out. I got to see the fire truck. My dad would actually take me and my sister in the fire truck, and he would take us around the runways that weren't being used, and he would shoot the giant water cannon. It was just great memories. And so I was like, you know what? I don't know what I want to do with my life, so hey, firefighter it is. But I wanted to do that. What a fire break is that a lot of times, if there's, especially in Midland, Texas, where there's nothing but dried everything, because everything is dead, dried field, if a grass fire starts, a lot of times firefighters, especially with West Texas wind as well, those fires are going to go out of control very fast. And so what they try to do is that instead of trying to attack the fire directly, is that they'll create a fire break, which is they'll start digging ditches way away from the fire, knowing that the fire's coming this way. They're going to just start digging ditches as much as they can, because once that fire hits that dirt ditch, it's just going to burn itself out. And so we need to initialize a fire break in our life. So an example of that is that you may need a fire break, in other words, to be protecting a place of solitude in your life with no TV, no computers, no cell phone, etc. And then ask yourself, so how's my relationship with the Lord doing right now? Because sometimes those things are such a distraction that you just totally forget to even just stop and listen to the Holy Spirit sometimes. Number 2 is you got to realize your purpose in life. Realize your purpose in life. We are all uniquely designed with a purpose. And Ephesians chapter 5 says, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise. And in Matthew 20 says, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. Again, second place heart that we talked about. And whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. So it's clear that we are to be like Jesus and live our lives based after his teaching and his life. Your next blank is this. In that case, our purpose here on earth is to, what is it? Serve others. It's to serve others. So we got to realize our purpose. So many times we tend to walk through life merely preparing to live while staying very safe and secure behind certain self-imposed boundaries. But God might just be calling us up and out on an adventure, and we just got to step into it. Your next blank is this. It's kind of cool because it's true. We all have the same amount of hours in our day, and it's 168 hours in a week. We all have the same time. 168 hours in our week, and it's up to us of how we will use them personally. We can get burned out if we fail to focus those hours for the things that truly matter most.
168.
168.
I was way off.
168. What'd you say?
300. How many hours? Like 300.
300 and... Yeah, we got 168 hours in the week. It's up to us how we personally choose to use them. And we also get to choose, we get burned out if we fail to focus those hours for the things that truly matter the most. Like, for example, prioritizing. What's most important right now? Zig Ziglar, a great motivator who has an awesome first and last name, Zig Ziglar, that's just awesome. ZZ, once said this in an interview titled, "Only the Thankful Can Burn Brightly Without Burning Out." And he said this, "God hasn't promised me 5 more minutes, but at 71, I honestly believe I'm at least 10, maybe 15 years away from hitting my peak. I believe my career's in front of me, though if God decides my life is over today, I'm ready. My creativity today is substantially better than it was 25 years ago. My energy level is higher than I was when I was 45. I'm also better organized than I was when I was 25 years ago. I scheduled exercise time, I eat sensibly, and I normally get about 7.5 hours of sleep." So your next blank is this. It's what you learn after you know it all that counts.
He was our patient until he passed away 2 years ago. or a year and a half ago, however long it was. He just passed away. So.
Really? That's awesome. I had no idea.
Well, it wasn't awesome he passed away, but
Well, it's awesome that he was your. Yeah. Well, sounds like he was a Christian, so maybe we'll see Mr. Zig Ziglar later.
I've been one to his seminars before
Really?
at the American Airlines.
Did you know him personally? My daughter, one of my youngest daughter, knew him through, she was a waitress, and they came in, and he called her. She started waiting on him, and then one thing led to another, and then they invited her. She was already at P.A.T.H, but she went on there. But got to know him, and he was a real encourager to her.
Sweet.
So,
Well, even from this little quote that I read, I'm going to read that last blank you guys filled in one more time because, really think about it. It really encouraged me to really write this. It's what you learn after you know it all that counts. It's what you learn through your experiences. It's what you learn as you go through life that really, really counts. And I wish young people, including myself, would learn from a very young age to take the advice of older people. A lot of times, especially parents, because you have those headbutting, especially young boys and their dads, they just headbutt, because, you're telling me what to do? I don't want to know what you want to do. But it's like, okay, all right, okay, make the mistake, but it's just that wisdom and that advice and that counsel is that what you learn after you know it all that counts. All right, number 3. This one, Melody, this one's totally for you, baby. I totally thought of you this whole time on this one. Yeah, so if you zoned out on me throughout this whole thing because you just hear my voice constantly talking, it's totally fine, I love you. But this one is totally for you, okay? It was worth all 8 hours of training for just this right here. Okay, here we go. Prioritize your key life areas. I tell her this all the time. I encourage her in this all the time. Prioritize your key life areas. And this is why, Melody, this is not a to-do list, okay? Prioritizing key life areas is not a to-do list. Don't make it a to-do list because they never go away. Simply ask yourself a question. What gives me the greatest return? There's an 80-20 rule that says this. If you were to write down 10 things that make your life successful, then we can suggest that 2 of those things, 20%, gives you 80% of your results, while 8 of those things only give you 20% of your results. So if you use this principle, the 80-20 rule, and write down the top 10 things that you're being called to do in prioritizing your life, then we could say that the 2 of those things on your list are giving you the greatest reward and return for your life. It's the 80-20 rule. So instead of a to-do list, find out which 20% is giving you that 80% return and do more of that. It's pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff to live by. And I say this to my wife because, bless her heart, all my life since I've known her, even in our dating, even before our dating, she's had to-do lists. Before the iPhone came out and everything where you could keep your list on your phone, your calendar on your phone, she still to this day has little pocket calendars that I wish I would have brought it for you guys. It's ridiculous. It is written, everything. It's highlighted. It's scratched out. You could open it. Yeah, you could open it and there's not one little white spot that you could write another note on. It's ridiculous. And because she had all of these lists and they keep piling up even to this day, her lists just expand to all this stuff. And I keep trying to remind her. Just recently she submitted, and I'm so glad. I'm just kidding. Just recently, the light bulb just finally came on for her, and she was trying to organize pictures on her computer so that she could get them in appropriate folders so that she could then back them up onto an external hard drive in case her computer goes out. Legit, okay, that happens. It's happened before. Her computer just died, so she wants to save memories. But these aren't memories. She's saving pictures of posts people put on Facebook of how to make your own homemade, how to make your own, pet memes, how to make your own homemade face mask, and how to take out pet stains from your carpet with all natural products that you have at home. It's like, babe, when that happens, look, and I even proved it. It was fun. We laughed so hard for like an hour. I was like, okay, show me one of these pictures that you're saving. Okay, well, like this one right here, how to make your own face mask. I want to know how to do that. Watch, baby. Google how to make your own homemade face mask. Boop, there it is. Oh, look, you don't have to save that picture. And she's like, but I love it. I love this picture.
The picture popped up like 20 times.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even
Yeah, and we just went down the list.
Again.
Yeah.
Same one I love.
Yeah, so we went down the list, more and more things. She's like, but I really like, look, this one's cute. It's a puppy and it has a kitten and it's so cute. And I was like, babe, Google, pet memes, enter, boom, overloaded with it. It's like, you don't have to. And so finally, like I said, the light bulb just came on and she's been hitting the button on her computer that I never thought she even knew existed called delete. And she's been deleting pictures after pictures.
It's
and
been
it
taking like 4 days.
and it's been saving her, ultimately it's been saving her a tremendous load of time because almost every day she's on her computer when she gets a chance. It's like 2 or 3 hours out of the day. I'm in the house. I might be doing things that I can do without her, like vacuuming or whatever. By the time I'm done, I'm sorry. I'm just throwing out your dirty laundry. I'm sorry. But after a while, I'm like, babe, are you done? No, I'm almost done. Okay. An hour later, she's still going. And so it's been one of those things where she's been encouraging me to prioritize things in my life, especially when it comes to work-related stuff, so that I don't take it home with me. And then I'm also encouraging her while at home.
No,
hey,
it's
babe.
Good. I really need this for you.
Yeah. And I'm
I'm
like...
a hoarder of memories, y'all, or a hoarder of things that I think are really good, but I'm a very organized hoarder. Very
I
organized.
need that part.
It takes me hours, and it's consuming my life. And
Yep.
I'm having a baby, and I need to just
Yep,
get rid of
and that's what I told her. I was like, delete it. Just delete it. And so it's a win-win. She helps prioritize things in my life when it comes to work. I help prioritize her things when it comes to at-home stuff. So it's good stuff. Prioritizes your key life, and it's not a to-do list. Wow, that was a lot for that one little section. Number 4, maximize your time. That's your next blank. Maximize your time. Ephesians chapter 5:17 says, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. It's a great reminder on planning and organizing our time. We're not here forever. The Bible says that our bodies are earthly vessels. They're tents compared to what we're going to be having. This life is not our own. This life is temporary. As much as people in this world, even sometimes we ourselves maybe tend to forget that we're living in the moment on life, that, wow, this is great. I've got this, I've got that, I've got this, all this. We can't take any of that stuff with us to heaven when we die. So we've got to ask the Lord, honestly, what's your will? Now, I'm going to try to say this in as much sensitive way as possible, but people also tend to over-spiritualize that. Lord, what is your will? And then they just like everything is super spiritual to them, from the thing they eat to the thing they do. It's like, just live your life the way the Holy Spirit's leading you, but don't make it so overly spiritual to where people look at you and they think you're like, I don't know, an extrovert or I don't know. Is that, I don't know what the word.
Yeah, I think extraterrestrial.
An extraterrestrial or something. Yeah, because I've known people in my hometown church that not a lot of them, just like 1 or 2 families. It's like everything that they did had to have God in it. I know that sounds bad. I mean, because you do want your life to revolve around God as the center. But I don't know. Do y'all get what I'm saying? I'm trying to say that in the most sensitive way I
We don't go to the
can.
bathroom, and that's a spiritual thing. That's just something God made happen naturally. So.
Yeah, or they have to pray about when they put the toilet paper on the toilet paper holder, should it be up or down when you wind. I mean, people make some things overly spiritual. It's like, dude, it's just a choice. You know, God gave us a brain. Use your brain. Use your brain. So let's try to ask the Lord, what is your will, and live our lives off of that. Here's the next one. The author of this book that we're going over, called Leadership Essentials for Children's Ministry, is this: if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's kind of something that I live with. I'm a huge organizer. What's my top? Shaper. So I'm a visionary. I've got to know what I'm going to do. All my life, my parents would get us in the car and say we're going to go somewhere, but they wouldn't tell me where we're going to go. They just said, hey, we're going to go somewhere, let's go. I'm like, okay, where are we going? I've got to know where we're going, and it was really irking me. But yeah, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's kind of my life motto. If I don't know what I'm doing, then I don't want to do it. Done. I'm out. Done. I'm out.
Christian is a shaper and is like, okay, we're going to Dillard's. Where else?
Where else? Yeah. Because you want to plan a time. It's like, do I...
3 places, Mom.
Exactly.
Later.
It's exactly how I am. It's like, so I can go with you to one place and be back in time to play video games, or you're going to take me to 3 places, therefore I could just stay home, period, and play video games. You know, I hated it when my mom did that too. So anyway. And my mom too, man. She would take us everywhere. She would take us to I got to go to the bank. Okay, cool. That's like a 30-minute run, since we live 30 minutes out of town pretty much. You just run into town really quick, go to the bank. Nope. Got to go to her office, which means she's got to get out of the car, walk up 7 flights of stairs to get to it, go back down. Oh, I got to go to the bank again. Okay. Oh, let's go to the library while we're here. Oh, you got to be quiet in the library. You know, it's just on and on and on. All right, Ecclesiastes 11:4 says, whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. In other words, if you wait for absolutely perfect conditions in your life, you'll never get anything done. Crazy, huh? If you wait for that perfect time of, oh, no, I'll do this at this appropriate time, more than likely that's not going to happen. Especially with a baby coming, you know, a lot of people say, oh, just save as much money as you can. Save it. I mean, you're never going to be financially ready for a baby. You can do what you can to have a little cushion, but you can never do enough to prepare for a baby. So it's like you can't just wait for that perfect opportunity to come around because it's not going to happen.
Well, there's so much stuff out there now. You've got to decipher what's really necessary. You don't need the thousands of things that are out there. There's these basics that we all agree upon. And I'm thinking, wow, I get confused.
Yep.
I don't have a house big enough to hold all that.
It's true. All right, we're going to wrap up with this right here. Is that we need to make sure that we maximize our time as Christians, really as Christians. This is valuable for us because God gives us money to be good stewards of it, but He's put us on this earth to be good stewards of our lives as well. So we got to keep ourselves healthy by exercising, making sure we watch what we eat, obviously about all these relationship stuff as well, but we also have to be good stewards of our time. So we've got to gain some of our time back during the day, and here are some helpful ways we can do that, to gain some time back that we might feel like we've lost. This is good. We actually went over this recently in an article, me and Melody. Don't put it down, put it away. Okay? Don't put it down, put it away. An example, if you need to view your mail over the trash. That way you throw away the unwanted ads and you file away the bills and it's cleaned up and you're good to go. Don't pile it, file it. That's Melody's motto too. She's like, don't pile it up on the kitchen counter. Let's just throw it away or file it away. Let's just get it done.
We're going to keep it, put it where it goes now.
Rita's all like, slow down, I'm taking notes.
Well, let me tell you, our family, my maiden's name is Rains. All the spouses had a name for us. The Rains piles. But we grew up with 9 kids in a 2.5 bedroom, 1 bath house.
Wow.
And so all you had was your pile, you know. And so it's amazing that I didn't realize that even some of our kids have picked up.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
Don't touch that because it is filed my way. But if you move that, we're gonna have problems. I won't be able to find anything for you. But true, but it is. And I've run circles around with that.
Yeah. I mean, same thing with this thing. If you get in the habit of just throwing things down, saying, I'll get to it later. Say you walk in, you throw your coat on the couch or whatever, you get to it later. Pretty soon, you're going to have 3 coats on the couch and all this stuff. And the article that Melody and I just read is that it saves you so much time if you put it away right then and there versus later on in the week when you're cleaning house. It's going to take you 10 minutes to hang 5 coats than less than 1 minute to hang 1 coat. And Rita, to go with the whole kids thing, is that we don't want to. We want to set a good example for our kids, also, just like any good parent does. So we're going to be encouraging our kid before they go to bed every night. Hey, we're going to pick up all the toys. I don't care if you want to or not. We're going to pick up all the toys you got out. Well, how can we effectively teach our kids to pick up their own toys if we're not effectively putting away our things? Yeah, food for thought right there. So put it away. Don't put it down. The second one is do it now. Do it now. Example is that the reason we don't do it now is because we don't like doing what we need to do, like vacuuming. So we got to act our way into feeling. Don't feel your way into acting. In other words, don't say, oh, I'll do it when I feel like it. No, just act your way into feeling. You know, surprisingly, the deeper into a task you go, the more your attitude becomes more positive about that task. So, I got to vacuum. Okay. You start doing it, you're like, ooh, I'm creating lines on the carpet. That's kind of my thing. Yes, so good. Oh, look at all that hair. That's nasty. Me, I just.
And I will have it done.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll just turn on some music too, like some Christian rock, and I'll just go through that sucker. And if Pandora's on shuffle on accident, and all of a sudden we've got a slow song, I'll just. So yeah, don't feel your way into act, or yeah, don't wait to do it how you feel, but actually make yourself do it. You'll be surprised. Here's the next one. Finish one thing before starting another thing.
That I fell out all the time.
Yeah. So it's actually, I think we're all guilty in this in some area or another, but finish one thing before starting another. Example of this, start with one thing and see it to completion all the way through. Then, once you get the hang of that, break larger tasks into smaller subtasks so you can slowly get your project off the ground a little bit more efficiently. And if you can, delegate, okay? If you have people around you that share the same heart and vision for whatever you're doing, delegate and see that through as well. Use waiting time. This is really important. This is in a lot of leadership books. This is in a lot of leadership podcasts and sermons and conferences. Basically, is that when you're getting your car's oil changed, or if you're at a stoplight, or at, what'd you say, Mel?
Doctor's office.
You're at the doctor's. Yeah, you're in a waiting room. Read a book. You know, pick up a book that is a self-help book or a self-spiritual help book, you know, one that can encourage your spirit man as well as the Bible. Listen to a sermon in the car, or like if you're stuck in traffic, you know, use that waiting time to your advantage to slow down your mind, to build yourself up.
Because I'm thinking of so many people all day long. If I go in my own waiting room, I'm just like sit there, I just like relax.
You zone out.
And
You almost fall asleep.
For 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's like a good thing.
It's true. Especially in this day, Melody had a good example. In this day and age, the first thing we do when we're bored or we have a stop moment is what? What do we do, Mandy? We pick up our phones. And what do? We check Facebook, we check our emails, we check our text messages. Mindless things that we just need to say, you know what? I'm going to carry a book in my purse, one that I can read. And that's what my last pastor even encouraged me to do. He was like, hey, I challenge you to read 3 books a month. One is a self-help book, one is a leadership book, and one that is just a fun book. But don't do the fun book before these other ones are done. So, you know, if you're going to read a chapter a day in each book, make sure you do the other 2 before you do the fun book. You know, it's just really encouraging. Didn't really get to accomplish that one. I'm a fast reader, but if I'm really trying to understand a book that's hard for me to grasp, it takes a little bit longer for me to read it. So anyway, use that waiting time. And again, as a reminder, all this stuff is to help us better honor ourselves so we can then honor others. And this, what we're going over right now, just in case you forgot as we're going through this, is to gain back some time you feel like you might have lost. So don't put it down, put it away. Do it right now. Don't wait until you feel like doing it. Finish one thing before starting another. Use that waiting time. And here's the next one. Invest in tools that will help you get the job done. Okay? Investing tools that will help get the job done. Example is that if you are one of those people that you just have ideas pop in your head at the craziest times and you don't have a notepad and a pen to take notes down, pop out your phone or invest in a small voice recorder. Record your memories and your thoughts down on that because that'll help. Anybody else have an example? That was the only one I could really think of when I was writing this, but do y'all have an example of investing in a tool that can help you get the job done more effectively?
Yeah.
Rita's laughing, so.
Because I was having to remember something. She goes, somebody told me something. I said, good idea. I'll try to remember that when I get to the car. And she goes, oh, you need to be sharing. I said, I have stuff out there. It's just between here and here. She come when I'm working on a board or something on the hallway one day. She came up to me just this past week and handed me sticky notes. She goes, you know those things called sticky notes? She says, here's a gift for you. And you know, it's just another reminder. Write the thing down. I said, I'm going down the hallway. I have walked down the hallway with
sticky notes on your shirt.
Seriously,
I've done it too.
Because I've got wherever I'm at, I've got kids. I mean, I really need to. You know, I had this week with time off, but not time off, but away from the main thing.
Yeah.
But I still bumped into kids at the nature preserve. I bumped into, you know, all this stuff. But it was in a different scene though that I was seeing everybody. But yeah, I have to learn to do that. 2 big dogs outside. They're not supposed to bark. Well, but one does. And first day she did, and that was it. And I said, thank you, Lord. Now I can really start just reading by myself. Taking care of my daughter's dogs at her place. So, yeah.
Yep.
Thinking about, you know, when you say tools, we have a kind of a thing between Rob and me at home. It's like we want a tool that sucks. You know, like a vacuum cleaner, you want a vacuum cleaner that sucks. So I mean, it's like if I need to say I need to run and I just can't motivate myself to run. Well, you know, within our clothing budget, get some new sneakers. A tool that's going to help me to get my job done.
That's right.
Or, I don't know, a better scrub brush to scrub the grout. So I don't have to go, oh, I hate this job. It's like the worst vacuum cleaning. But,
you know, get something that's easy.
Yeah, get something that's going to bless you or motivate you to
Magic
To
erasers.
do it. Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
anything. Support pantyhose.
Yeah.
Energy or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
you know.
and for example, for the running shoes or the cleaning brush, those tools that you invest in then motivate you to do it.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
And
if
they're
you're
priceless,
because
you know?
you're investing into it and investing money into it. Like again, to go with that, I had a vacuum cleaner since I was at CF&I. Just wanted a vacuum cleaner for our dorm because we didn't have one. $50 Walmart, done, easy. Bissell vacuum cleaner lasted me for 3 years. Finally burned out. Oh, I love that thing so much. $50, 3 years, pretty good investment right there. Went and bought the same thing at Walmart. They still sell it. We've had it since we've been married now for I think a 2-year period before this one burned out. It's like, okay, cool, third time's a charm. I'm gonna go buy it again, $50, because that was a 2-year warranty on it. It burned out. I was able to get the next one for free, and then I got the next one within a month or two. This one burned out too, and I was like, okay, I'm finally done with this. I'm done. Long story short, I invested more money into a more powerful vacuum cleaner. I've only used it once, but it's working great. So I'm hoping this one will last a little bit longer. And the carpet looks a little bit more awesome. So yeah, when you invest money into it, that hard-earned money that you're putting your time into, it tends to help motivate you to get that job done even more. So there's a lot of ways we can go to that. But that's good, Becky. I'm glad you brought that up. The next one is that understand your personality. If you ever take a personality test, you kind of know what your personality is. We went over the ships, which one goes for you. Are you the battleship, the canoe? Understand that personality. So basically, don't hang around people who will drain you, because there's a Bible verse that says bad company will corrupt good character or good morals. So if you're a good person and you're hanging around with people who aren't so good, it's going to bleed over into you. It's going to corrupt you. And unfortunately, a lot of people think that that's just how they need to live their Christian lives. Oh, I'm missionary dating. You know, I'm a Christian dating this person who's not a Christian, and we go to these clubs and stuff, and their friends do drugs and stuff. But don't worry, I'm not. I've heard so many horror stories of that. After a year or two, that Christian person is falling into the same traps. You know, they're intentionally putting themselves as a light of Christ in a very, very dark place alone by themselves, and they're not equipped to do that, and so their light gets extinguished very quickly. So know your personality, and then ask yourself, am I an introvert or an extrovert? Personally, I'm an introvert. So basically being around a lot of people for an extended amount of time, it drains me because I'm constantly pouring out. I feel like I've got to put, I'm talking with my hands right now a lot. I feel like I got to put a lot of energy into what I do. So by the time we're done on Sunday morning or anything like that, ask Melody, I'm dead. I'm like, I got to take a nap. I've got to do this. I've got to seclude myself for a while just to kind of get myself back up and re-energize myself.
I think you're both, honestly.
You think I'm both?
There is no way you're an introvert in publicly.
Okay, well,
But when you
publicly
get
maybe I'm
home,
an
I think
extrovert.
you're just drained and you need that
Think I'm
time
getting
to
to home
yourself.
mode. So I'm more of an extrovert publicly.
But you're not an introvert.
Well, we were talking about that, Matt and I, like my husband, who's an introvert, I'm an introvert too. But you function as an extrovert when you need to, and he totally does. You know.
Oh, but I feel like he's more extrovert
Even
the majority of the time.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
More so than 50.
That's.
Okay, I'm gonna get.
You're a mystery.
I'm a mystery.
Depending on the day.
Yeah, it depends on the day. That's good. Let's go with that one. Depends on how much bean juice I had in the morning.
Yeah.
That's what I call my coffee, my bean juice. All right, plan your day the night before. That's your next blank. In other words, why don't you go ahead and set your clothes out the night before church? Melody, I tell her this all the time. Pick your outfit, because basically it's you're going to be scrambling for socks in the middle of the night, or you're going to be trying to find stuff or in the morning, and you're going to be like, oh, I'm running out of time. Well, you wouldn't if you just planned the night before. It's a matter of determining. What would you say?
What if you change your mind?
What if you change your mind? Yeah, it actually has happened. Melody did.
Girl thing.
No. Really, Melody was really bad about it when we got married, and I encouraged her, babe, just pick it out the night before. Pick out your outfit, because she was also the worship leader, and so clothing on the stage, there was a lot of do's and don'ts, and so Melody would follow that. But when she put it on the next morning, she goes, this is just not fitting right. It's just not working. And so, again, it almost was pointless. But hey, for the most part, it worked out really good. But the thing is this, it's a matter of determining to control the flow of your own life instead of letting your life control you. And that's just one little minor thing, the whole clothes thing. There's other things in our lives where you can plan ahead to make sure that you are taking more control of your life instead of your life taking control of you, because it happens. People let work take over their lives, and it destroys families. It destroys relationships. You just got to make those choices. What's your priorities? And take it from there. Number 5 is this, energizing yourself with downtime. Everyone say amen.
Amen.
Downtime for me and Melody is sitting down in front of the couch, maybe with a bowl of popcorn, and we're watching Little House on the Prairie or Anne of Green Gables. That is our stuff. Seriously, really. Anne of Green, all my time. I've seen all 3 of them probably 50 times.
Some people have never even heard of
Oh, my father-in-law makes fun of me all the time. A man who loves Anne of Green, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, see, Matt, I think it's an older sister and just a creative part of us. Yeah, Little House on the Prairie, Full House, all of the classics that are family friendly. All right, so here's the next blank for you. It's a fraction. It's half, 1/2. So half of the problems are stress-related in life, if you didn't know this. Doctors say it all the time. Half of the problems, of health problems, are stress-related. So imagine knowing that all backaches, stomach aches, headaches, they can be cured if we just get a better handle on daily life and its stress. And the result is not a sin, okay? Rest is not a sin. It's actually a command, okay? God even said, the 7th day he what? Rested. It's a command. It's not a sin. Some people, again, they go to that whole extreme of what's the Lord's will over my life stuff, and they go, oh, we can't rest. No, we got to do. No. If you're going to go that extreme, let's look at the Bible again. So, all right, I'm going to wrap this up for you guys by reading this to you. You've probably heard this before, but again, managing your life, prioritizing your life. I even sent this to Melody in a video form not too long ago on Facebook saying, hey, I think this will help you in organizing your stuff on the computer. So here we go. Okay, class, it's time for a quiz, the professor said as he pulled out a gallon-sized, wide-mouth mayonnaise jar and set it on the mason jar. I said, well, man, yeah. Set it out on the table in front of them. Then he took out 12 fist-sized rocks and carefully placed each one into the jar until there was no more room. And he asked the class, is the jar full? And everyone answered, yes. Are you sure? Is it really full? He waited for a moment and then reached under the table and pulled out a bucket of gravel. He dumped it into the jar, shook the jar, and let the gravel pieces work themselves down between the rocks. And he asked again, is the jar full? The class answered, well, probably not. He nodded in agreement. He reached under the table again and pulled out a bucket of sand. He started dumping the sand into the jar. When all the spaces in the jar were seemingly filled, he asked again if the jar was full. This time the whole class shouted in unison, no. Once again he agreed, and he grabbed a pitcher of water, and he began to pour into the jar until it was filled to the brim. And then he looked at the class and asked, what is the point of this illustration? One eager man raised his arm and said, the point is, and this is a good point by the way, no matter how full your schedule is, if you try really hard, you can always fit more things into it. Okay, it's a good point. But the professor said, no, that's not the point. The truth is that this illustration teaches us is this. If you don't put the big rocks in first, you'll never get them in at all. Mm-hmm. So your next blank is this. What are the big rocks in my life right now? I actually have your, but, mine's fine. Just spread it out. What are the big rocks in my life right now? Focus on that. Because if you don't prioritize the things in your life that matter most, like family, first of all, prioritizing your life as a Christian, let's just say it. First one, it's your relationship with God, period. Doesn't matter how much you love your family, how much you love your spouse, how much you love anybody in your life. God should always be number one. Then if you're married, it should be your spouse and your family. And then what? Someone help me out with this one. Ministry or job or whatever. Yeah. So always God. So think in that mindset, because sometimes we tend to complicate things. Let's just think easy. These are the big rocks. This illustration had 12 of them. So think about what are the 12 big ones. If that's too much, compile it. 5. What are the big 5 things in my life that I prioritize? And number them. What's the first one? What's the second one? Get those in. Then after you make sure that you do those things, you're able to then fit all the other little things in it. Because think about it. It happens all the time for Christians. We get up. Oh, I love to have my devotional times in the morning, but I'm just so tired. I think I'm just gonna grab my breakfast really quick. And then what happens? They never have their devotional that day. It's because why? They didn't fit that big rock in first. They didn't prioritize it, and it happens all the time. Your next blank is this. When we're truly overloaded in life, we tend to dishonor others, and we simply don't have room for them. Just like if they would have put the water and the sand and the gravel in first, they wouldn't have had room to put those other rocks in. It's because we don't have room for other people in our lives or to meet their needs. It's because we don't make room for them. We don't prioritize things. And your last blank, ending right at 5 o'clock, is that a healthy self is the first step to making healthy choices, which leads to healthy, honoring relationships. Again, we're wanting to honor others, but first you have to honor ourselves. And we honor ourselves by doing what the Lord has asked us to do.